It's 10 o'clock. I would like to call the Charter Commission regular meeting of Saturday, January 14th to order. We have two commissioners that are not present today, Commissioners Willis and Flanagan. With that, we move on to item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Will all everyone please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we move to item number 3, citizens' comment period, or any citizens who have signed to speak. There being none, we close that item and move to item number 4, business items. Following items for discussion, consideration, and action. The first is the approval of the minutes from November 28th, November 30th, and December 12th. Do I have any comments, concerns, corrections from the commission? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, we move on to Section B, discuss and draft proposed city charter. I believe y'all have the latest version of that. Y'all were emailed that. I guess at this point, I'd like to open it up to see if there are any corrections, concerns, additions, anything that y'all would like to discuss. As we're moving toward basically a motion to approve this proposed draft charter to send it forward to City Council for placement on the ballot. So with that, I open it up for the commission.
I have two things I wanted to check on. One, in section 101, we talk about the city council appointing city officials. And of course, later in the draft, we talk about the officials that the city manager will appoint. And of course, they just have to approve that. And the question came to my mind, should we be specific there or leave it open as it is and do the provisions for who the city manager will appoint sufficient?
Mr. Santee, would you? I think everybody met Mr. Santee. He's with Dennis Navarro, blah, blah, blah. I never can remember the total title of your law firm. I apologize for that. Denton Navarro, Zek, et cetera. And he's subbing for Charlie today, so.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Dan Santee. I'm with the San Antonio office of Denton Navarro, Roach, Bernal, and Zek. I'm a shareholder there. And I work with Charlie on charters, various places in Texas. So happy to be here this morning. So as to the question, the way the charter is set out, which is typical of charters, is that the city council only has, once you're a council manager form of government in this charter, so the city council is only going to appoint those that are stated in the charter. All other personnel are going to be hired, fired, and overseen by your city manager. So there's no need to dictate what those positions are, because each year the city manager is going to bring forward to the city council, the budget, which is going to list the positions, and those have to be approved by the council at that point.
So that's what we have is sufficient?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the other one was, and maybe I just couldn't find it because I went through this with a glass of wine in my hand the other night. We state in section 3.005 that a member of city council shall forfeit their office, and number 4 is cease to be a resident of the city. And I couldn't find where we stated that they had to be a resident of the city. Now, I may have just missed it, but I couldn't find it.
Is that an issue maybe that's in the state statute, that to run for governmental office?
Yes, you have to be a resident of the area from which you're being elected for eligibility as a candidate. Like that's
so
in the
it's
election code.
stated in state law.
It's in the election code.
Okay, that answers my question. That's all I had.
I'll just add that we added that in there, the cease to be a resident of the city, because election code and state law does not address that.
Thank you, Marissa. Any other comments from the commission? Any questions?
Well, just so the rest of the commissioners are aware, I had a concern, as I'd mentioned previously, that one of my concerns was acts of omission. And that we went through this, and in many cases, state law covers things, our ordinances cover other items, but I was concerned that having used the Fort Stockton as our template charter, that we may have missed something that we wanted to make sure that it was not an active mission. And Nancy and Rob and Santee assured me that everything that was covered in that checklist, if you will, in Volume 3 that I'd mentioned before is covered either by state law, ordinance, or our charter. So I'm comfortable that there are not omissions that will affect us. And as Nancy pointed out to me, there's a backup that should something not be in this charter, that we can make an ordinance to do so and take care of whatever there is if anything happens to slip through. Our challenge is not putting too many things in here that are restrictive to taking care of business as we need to. So I'm comfortable that there are no omissions in our charter.
Thank you, Wayne. Anybody else?
Yeah, on 6.02, petitions for recall, our discussion regarding the percentage of voters. We voted on the 25%. And I felt, after thinking about it this week, that I think the aim of the discussion was to lessen the burden on the petitioners, when I think truly what we want to do is make it a burden for the petitioners, because I think it's, the reasons that we're calling for a recall are something that the elected official has done or is alleged to have done that is driving the petition for recall. So as a result, I think that we need to increase the number of registered voters from the 25%. I think it needs to be more of a burden on the petitioners than it is on anybody else. So I think we really need to reconsider that percentage level from 25% to 30%, which was where I had started with initially.
Do we need a motion to bring that up for reconsideration? It seems like we would. No, I'm getting a yes and I'm getting a no. You would?
Yes, I would, if you want to consider that going, as a change to what you have before you. At some point, you would need a motion and a second to see if that wants to be reconsidered to make that change.
Okay.
Especially given the fact that it was a motion and a second and a vote that solidified that in the previous meeting. You would need to have another motion with that.
Okay. So would you like to make a motion that the commission reconsider it, and we'll see where we go with that?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to reconsider the percentage point in section .02, moving it from 25 to 30%. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, with that, we have discussion. So we've heard Mondo?
So we have a couple who are not here. Will they vote later to make this final decision, or they're out of it?
They're out of it.
Okay. I've been thinking about it too, and I was thankful that we did the 25%. I've done petitions before, and this is because of incompetency and misconduct, where this person who may not, that was described to us, may not ever admit it. And if we figured it's about over 1,000, almost 1,100 signatures, you got to go face to face. You have to be organized. You have to go out and get people who agree with you. If these are people who are coming and seeing this misconduct, whether or not this council member misconduct is in this room or outside in his life, you have to go and talk to those people. It takes a long time, and it takes very organized. You got to get volunteers. So it is a huge burden, so that when you have someone who is incompetent or misconducting their behavior in or out of this room, that's a lot of work to get 1,100 signatures face-to-face.
That's understood.
Right.
That's understood. But again, the burden should be on the petitioners, and it doesn't matter how much work it takes. I mean, I think it's still a serious matter for anybody involved. So if the petitioners are serious about pursuing a recall election, I think the burden on them is to get the proper amount of signatures, regardless of whether it's 25 or 30%. The burden on them is to get that recall.
So the burden shouldn't be on the city council or the citizens to get rid of an incompetent misconduct person.
The citizens are going to decide that with the petition.
Yeah. Well, I think it's too high, it's unreasonable, but that's, again, my opinion.
I kind of hear what Diana's saying, and I made the motion last time for the 30%. And since that time, I've thought a lot about it too. And I actually went out and read some other charters of other cities just randomly. And I also read the newspaper, and if you happen to see an article this week in the newspaper, this whole issue was coming up on a councilman in our area. And it even talked in there about recall, and they had to get a number of voters. Long story short is, I kind of agree with Diana now on the 25%, from the standpoint is the petition is simply getting it onto the ballot. The voters still have the ability to vote yes or no. So the argument I've kind of has shifted in my brain is not so much putting the burden on the petitioners to make it happen, it's make it something that's not going to happen every day, but at the same point, it's just getting that issue on a ballot. It's not driving the outcome. So the voters will still have an opportunity to vote yes or no, but if you make that stipulation too hard, it'll never get to the ballot for them to even decide. So it's kind of a close area. All the charters I read, they use 10%. And we unanimously agreed that was too low, especially for recall. And so I just wanted to share that discussion because I had to go home and kind of sleep on that when we went through this discussion last time. And I kind of lean more with Diana now on just getting it onto a ballot. Then
Yeah.
the voters can decide.
Yeah, and the way I looked at this is this isn't a court of law, right? But in a court of law, you have to be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think that this is kind of the same, along the same lines, is that the burden needs to be put on the petitioner. And I don't think that going from 25 to 30%, whatever that number is too great a number.
Any other commissioners that want to speak on this issue?
Well, I just have to agree, good point you're making. We're allowing democracy, and if it's a burden, the democracy isn't going to show itself. I think it's a good point, Jim.
Any other commissioners? Well, with that, I think what we need is, right now, we're sitting at 25%. Armando, do you want to make a motion to change? We've had a discussion, we've had the motion to open it up for discussion. Now do we have a motion to either make the change?
Nadine, so we have an open motion on the floor that was seconded with the discussion. It's called for a vote
Thank you,
now.
thank you,
Yes,
thank you.
ma'am.
Appreciate that, Mayor. So, well, we should have called for the vote before we had the discussion.
No, you got to discuss it before you vote. You're right. So now it's up for a vote.
Okay, so the vote is to change it to 30.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying,
That was
Mayor?
the motion.
Is that correct, Marissa? Okay. Sorry, guys, I apologize. So we have a motion on the floor to change it from 25 to 30%. We have a second. We had the discussion. All those in favor of the motion to change it to 30%, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
What I'm seeing is it is, I can't even count today. We have one in opposition, or one in favor of the motion, all others in opposition. Motion does not carry, so we're staying at 25%. Thank you very much, Armando, for bringing that up for further discussion. I think that's very helpful. Appreciate your comments. Anything else from the commission? Well, with that, I'd like for us to entertain a motion to forward the proposed draft to City Council for final formatting, et cetera, for placement on the ballot at an election to be called by the City Council. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second.
Nadine,
Yes, sir.
if we can, let's be very specific on what that motion says. So, to make sure it goes to council correctly and the wording matters here. So is that motion that we just said, so moved, that, hey, I move that our draft home rule charter be submitted to city council for final approval pending final edits from city staff and city attorney? Is that
Yes.
what we're trying to say? Okay.
Yes.
Marissa, is that good? Dan?
And
Okay.
to place said on the ballot.
The council does that.
Yes, the council.
So approval from the council, then it would go, the council sends it to the ballot.
I'm assuming we have to do that based on our earlier discussion.
Right. So what I heard was that it was being sent to council for consideration for placement on the ballot,
Correct. Thank you.
calling the election, so.
So my understanding is this can still be edited?
No.
No,
Okay, this is going to be the final edition, and then it's submitted to all those parties,
Because this is our first charter,
okay?
once it goes pending final edits from staff and attorney, once it goes to council, it's done. Council can't touch it.
Okay.
Question, so the council can't touch, it's going to the council for their approval, but can they decide, we don't want to do this as a council?
It is possible,
So it could
however,
be- it
highly
could-
unlikely.
It could derail at the council regardless of how good it is.
It is a possibility, however, it was a unanimous vote to create this commission from the
Okay.
council. So I highly doubt that would be the case.
I didn't expect it to be 32 degrees this morning either, but things
True,
happen.
true statement. 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance, right?
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So this will be forwarded to City Council for consideration of placement on the ballot. I think there was also, we wanted to, I think, again, did we decide we can discuss future action based on the wording of our agenda?
so in doing so, you're referring to the educational opportunities for the public and what else will happen with this now that you're sending this forward. I'm fine with that general discussion about what happens next.
Okay.
It's part of the process, and that's what y'all have been convened to do, is discuss and decide on processes, so.
Okay, Mayor, I think this one falls in your camp. What
Yeah, you
more do
bet.
you need?
Thanks, Nadine. So, the discussion I'd like to have now with all of you, and thanks for coming out on a Saturday, is twofold. One, do we think we need to, I don't see a reason let's back up. You have completed your tasking from the city council. You've said yes to the letter, and thanks again for saying yes. You've done your homework. We've had amazing discussions. You've heard me talk about that before. And the Democratic and Republic process at work right here in Garden Ridge. It's amazing, and thank you for what you've done. You have completed your charter, and we are sending it to council. So thanks. The next thing is we don't need to meet next Saturday, the previously scheduled meeting, and on Wednesday, the 25th of January. So unless I'm missing something from Nancy and Dan, is there any reason that the commission needs to meet again?
Not that I am aware of, so.
Okay. So because those are official meetings, you'll get a cancellation notice from Marissa on that, hey, the next two commission meetings are canceled because you've completed your task in your charter. Correct, Marissa? Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is public awareness, public education as this goes to the ballot. So how do we do that? The council will make that recommendation or come up with what they want to do, but they will listen to your recommendation, our recommendation, if you will, on how we want to proceed to educate the public. One of the things we're doing with our new draft ordinance for planning and zoning draft, or ordinance 13, it's been not completely rewritten, but almost, and doubled in size. That has been approved by the council, but the draft has gone to city staff from the council, from planning and zoning. We still have yet to approve it. To approve it, we have to have a public hearing. So what you're going to see coming out from the city to that notice of public hearing is a postcard, a mailer, right, Marissa? Coming out to everybody, talking about, here's the public hearing, here's the date, here's the time, here's where you find the draft ordinance, and here's where the changes are. And then we'll talk about it at that public hearing. That'll be the only thing on the agenda for that meeting. And then council will vote to approve it, correct? Correct. Okay. So that's for ordinance 13. Here is a draft home rule charter, constitution for the city of Garden Ridge, if you will, that's never been done before. So I would think that a public hearing would be a very good way to educate the public, the constituency who's going to vote on yea or nay on this prior to the election, and specifically prior to early voting. So what we have thrown around is early voting starts the last 2 weeks of April this year, correct, Marissa? So maybe either the first, probably the second week of April, having a public hearing midweek specifically to address and discuss with questions and answers in this chamber the home rule charter. So that's one way that we could do it. There'd be a mailer that goes out. Here's what you're going to vote on. Here's where you find the draft, or here's where you find everything. And here's some other education periodicals or something. I'm missing the word there. So what do you guys think about that as a commission? Or do you have other ideas and or ways that we can educate the city of Garden Ridge, the voters, to come out and vote in favor of this?
I see Janelle's mic on, so I'm going to call that one.
Well, first off, are we limited to one public hearing, or can we have more than one?
The problem with more than one public hearing is time with the city staff, because in order to put that together, it takes a lot for specifically Marissa and Nancy to put everything together, to put it out there. And it's another meeting that we have to have the whole council at. So, and a public hearing is a special meeting that we call, and the only thing on the agenda is what we're going to discuss, that nothing else is up for action.
Then is there a possibility of having some sort of celebration or something like that to basically gather people in the neighborhood, maybe a vehicle with a sign saying home rules right here? What do you think? To open up people's eyes to what's going on?
Are you talking like a meet and greet with the home rule commissioners and to talk about it in different neighborhoods, or what? Be more specific, John L., if you would, please.
I didn't go that far.
Okay.
Sending us out there, but
I know what you're talking about, because that's what we did in the HOA when we wanted to change something that was drastic. We called it little town meetings, and we went to, it's a little, Wild Wind small, but we went to a corner, 4 corners, and had made ourselves as a board available for all the neighbors to come and ask us questions so that we can educate them. We didn't get a very good turnout, typically. But my question is, when it does come down to the vote, is it just going to be the most yeses and that wins it? Or does it have to be a percentage?
So it's a majority because it's a yes or no.
Okay,
Right?
so it'll be
the
just yes or no?
the highest percentage of votes,
Yeah,
yes or no.
okay,
If there's more yeses than nos, it passes.
right. So the hard part is getting people here to understand what this means for the city, what impact it'll have. That's the hardest part, is getting the bodies in here to hear a public hearing. And maybe a sign on the car, come on Tuesday, might do it. I don't know, but I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. Because it was hard for just a little HOA.
Yep. Nancy, you, here.
We will most likely use a lot of social media to promote whatever date the meeting is. Once those my thought is, once maybe we send out we do some social media posts that like, be on the lookout for information about I don't know, should we call it a public hearing or more of a town hall?
Well, you can do it either way, Nancy. Also remember that every registered voter of the city is going to receive a copy of the charter that's being voted on. It's required by the statute. So it says before the 30th day, before the date of the election, every registered voter is going to get a copy. And so if you have that meeting after they've received it, it may have more impact, because once they receive that, you can send with that a letter saying, on this date, we will have this meeting to help, answer any questions regarding this that's going to be on the ballot in May.
They have to have that 30 days prior?
Yeah, what the statute says is, before the 30th day, before the date of the election, the governing body, the municipality, shall order the municipal clerk or municipal secretary to mail a copy of the proposed charter to each registered voter of the municipality.
And based on from other city secretaries that I've talked to about this, what they did is they also included like a letter in front of it. They didn't just send the home rule charter and everyone be like, what is this? A letter explaining it, kind of talking about it. And at that point, we could also put in there the public hearing date, time, location.
So that's great, because, a letter from the mayor explaining this process, and here's the product that the commission came up with. Here's why the council voted to create the commission. Commission, here is what you're going to vote on, the home rule charter, and it has to be at least 30 days prior to the general election. So that would be April 6th. But if we could get that out ahead of time, that would be a good thing. And then we could still do, hey, it's a town hall or a public meeting that second week of April prior to early voting starting. Does that timeline work, Marissa? Is this something that we can send out in our monthly water bill with the grapevine and everything? Or is this separate?
I think we should make it a separate
Okay,
mailing.
I agree. No, I agree, yeah.
Mainly because a copy has to go to every registered voter.
Yeah.
So there may be 2 registered voters in one household. We have to send each of them a copy.
Sure.
So we wouldn't even go off of our utility records. It'd be a whole separate list that I need to get from the voter registrar.
So the Erickson household will get 4 copies since
If y'all have 4
Judge is
registered
18 now?
voters,
Okay, great.
So the deadline is the 30th day before Election Day. There's nothing that says we can't send it out earlier, and you know me, we probably will. But I don't know how much earlier, just because we're getting into, we're almost in February, so I wouldn't expect it to go out until probably beginning of March.
But if we planned on having that town hall / public hearing that second week in April, which is the week prior to early voting starting, we could make that with a mid-March mailer
Right.
letter going out?
Correct.
Does that work?
And go on and start utilizing social media to let people know they're going to be receiving a copy so they know it's coming.
Yeah, and we can go ahead and start pushing information out on social media. The only thing that we can do with that, though, is purely factual information about
Correct.
what a home rule city is, what the charter is. The city can't put any opinion or try
No.
to sway in one way or another. Purely factual information is the only thing those will contain.
So right now, just looking at the calendar, that Wednesday is the 12th of April. That's a P and Z meeting, commission meeting. We could do it like maybe Tuesday, the 11th, as you look at the calendar. I didn't see anything on the city schedule for that day.
And also, early voting actually doesn't start until April 24th.
Okay, so we could do it the next week.
So just to clarify, early voting starts on Monday, the 24th, and goes through Tuesday, May 2nd. So we could even do it the 17th through the 21st, or we could do it the 10th through the 14th, either week.
So with the public hearing / town hall and the mailer to every registered voter sometime in March, I think that's a pretty good education process and manageable with the city. I don't know that we need anything else. Thoughts, Marissa and Nancy, on that one?
A couple of comments, if I could, on that. Is one, there's a small bedroom community in northern Colorado called Severance. It's where two of my kids live, and they went through this process a year ago. And if you go out to the Severance, Colorado website and you Google home rule, bam, up pops their charter, up pops a list of all the frequently asked questions, up pops a narrative right on Google that kind of gives you an overview of what home rule charter is. And it's kind of what Nancy's talking about, using social media. And there's no reason you can't start any of that. Once the city council approves it, those wheels can go into motion. That's a point that I would recommend we follow.
Completely
And-
agree with you.
And secondly, in the business community, they call it guerrilla marketing. And that's when you're trying to get the attention of a potential customer through visual means. We use it all the time, especially in elections. You got little cardboard signs in your front yard says, vote for or Rob Erickson. It's a one-liner that gets people talking. Well, what's home rule? You heard about home rule? And you already got 7 people right here to put signs in their yard, 8, 9, 10. I mean, you start getting people talking to each other about what is this home rule thing? And the more they talk, then they go look for it, and it starts an education process. So just another idea that's not high cost, but it's like putting on holding a sign out on 2252 when cars go by, home rule, and it gets people wondering what the heck is home rule.
My thought is, perhaps the commission help us develop those key points, those facts that we need to get out there.
How do we do that then? Just the
I guess I wonder how much the city can do as part of, other than just informing, because then it looks like that the city is taking a position, and what I understood from Dan is that the city as a city can't do that. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding? Because I like the idea of the signs in our yard, but I'm wondering how to accomplish that.
Yeah, I think that's still just informational. I mean, that's still just calling attention to everyone that there's a vote on this topic on this date. It's not advocating for or against.
If basically the sign said home rule and didn't say vote for, we'd probably be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're just informing the public again that this charter election, I mean, I guess the whole idea is to get as many people to turn out and vote as possible. They're all going to get a copy of it. They're all going to have questions if they haven't been paying attention to all the goings on, and they haven't been, honestly. I mean, that's most cities. You could ask me anything that's going on with New Braunfels city government, even though that's my whole life. I work in city government. I couldn't tell you anything about it because I don't pay attention to my own hometown, so.
I have another question. Is there any legal difference or particular problem between the definition of a public hearing and a town hall? I guess when I hear public hearing, to me, I don't know, it's legal, and a town hall is a meet and greet and info.
So, and I'll welcome any other input on this, but just from my own experience, I mean, from a practical standpoint, there's not necessarily a difference. But the public hearings, that term is used more often because of, in state law, there are many instances where you have to have required public hearings. And then even locally, when you're having zoning changes and things, you have to have public hearings. But sometimes even those public hearings are very different. So for example, if you have to have a public hearing for a grant that you're applying for, that doesn't even necessarily have to have council present. That's a public hearing for the citizens that can be hosted by the staff. So when you talk about it, when you use the term town hall, how I approach that with my cities is if they want to have a town hall, it still needs to be posted for council to be present. If your intent is to have a town hall that council is not going to be present at, it needs to be clearly stated in whatever you're going to post, that this is a town hall meeting hosted by staff and, to answer questions. Or you could have a couple of council members there, but you would not want to have a quorum. Because as you stated, the intent is simply to provide information and have information available. I think that people opt for that phraseology, town hall, when they want it clear that this is not an official meeting, there's no action or anything like that. Public hearing, when you state that, a little more confusing because it's used in so many different contexts. And that's just my personal observation.
What about doing a town hall with the commission? So, and not in this chamber, we do it in the community center.
We won't be able to stream from there.
Can't stream from there. Well, if it's a town hall, do we need to? I mean, if we don't
And
call it a
if y'all
public
want it
hearing.
streamed, we aren't going to be able to accommodate that at the community.
But we
center.
could do a town hall in here and stream it.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Could
that
we-
may be-
Why would it have to be, I'm only asking, does it have to be streamed and not recorded? And then you
does.
put a recording out on the,
It doesn't have to be streamed, but I think that if you're going to have that type of a meeting for educational purposes, it's probably a huge benefit to be able to stream that, because maybe someone wasn't able to make it, or somebody that was here was tell their neighbor, hey, you need to watch this. This is really important. I think that helps promote and get the education out.
I agree, yeah. That if we have the ability to stream it and record it, that's a really good point. So we could still do it in here, and we could call it a town hall, but have you as the commission here to answer the questions and make the presentation. You did all the work. So I think that's important. And then we don't have to have necessarily the council there and a notice of quorum and all that kind of stuff. So, but you guys did the work, and I'll be there with you, but I like that idea. What do you guys think? Nadine?
I'm at your disposal, Mayor, so.
I think we can script it before
Yeah.
and have particular peoples be our spokesman, and we're here if we're, needed. But I think we can have it scripted, ready for, and anticipate those questions that everyone we think will have. But I think that takes a lot of organization and time. But like you said, we own it, so I don't think it's that difficult.
I'm not keen on it personally.
Why?
Because I'm not smart enough. No, listen.
Come on,
Because there'll be
man.
people that will come in here with agendas. There will be. And they're going to be smarter about their agenda than I am. And I just don't feel comfortable getting put on the tip of a nail to defend this. I can defend the process. I can defend how we got here. But even in the meetings we've had, Charlie was a resident. He knew the answers to the questions. He even knew the questions that we didn't know the questions. And now you bring in general public, I personally don't feel comfortable defending this. That's just me.
Okay?
I believe in it.
What if you were
I'm
here?
sure I could convince somebody that doesn't believe in it.
Well, you don't have to. You just have to be able to try and answer their question. Okay? With the facts. So what if you were here, but like Diana said, it's fairly scripted? I mean, it'd be a presentation. Here's where it came from. Here's the premise. Here's what recall means. Here's some of the things that are different from how we do business right now.
I would be,
So,
not denying that, I just don't want to be the guy at the microphone explaining to the audience.
okay, that's one of the reasons I get paid the big bucks to do that stuff. So, yeah, in my cheering section. So, Dan, I mean, having a town hall or a public hearing and the mayor being the front man of the band for that, there's no issues with that, is there?
I don't, not in my opinion, there's not an issue with that.
I would think too, we would want city council there because they're the ones who approve it and put it forward. So I think we should be there, but I also think city council should be here, represented by you. And if you want to be the only one here, that's okay with me. But I think city council should be represented here because they're the ones who are putting it forward to the citizens. We just provided them the tools to do that. And we can be available to answer questions as we can, but I think Jim was right on the mark. You and Charlie are going to be the answer machines. We may be able to add some additional information and thoughts, but I think.
Okay, so let's do this then, based on this great discussion. Whether we call it a town hall or a public hearing, let us come up with that with the semantics. I'll lead it. I'll be the front man for the band. We'll have the council here. We'll have you guys here. Obviously, we'll have a notice of quorum, all that kind of stuff, to answer questions. So I'll run the presentation and then defer to Jim Sturge for the really hard questions. Will that work? You guys like that? Okay. Nancy, does that?
That's fine.
Marissa?
Just to clarify, are you wanting council members to be able to speak during this meeting, or are they just going to be here in the audience to listen and hear the information?
Because we can post as potential.
Because that'll be the difference in the type of notice that I post. Do I need to post a full agenda, or do I need to post a notice of potential quorum?
This is a presentation, not a debate, correct?
Yeah, we're not going to vote on anything. I mean, it's nothing.
We're just, the purpose of the meeting would be to present the facts about what the Home Rule Charter is about, what it does for the city, and answer questions that residents may have, divert confusion or try to alleviate any kind of confusion. Basically, this is our time to educate them before they go to the polls to vote on it.
I'm hoping we've done enough ahead of that to refer a lot of people wanting to come here, get the
And
Because I would assume most of our information is going to come up what we would already have published at some point.
that would be a goal, our goal, but you never know until, you just never know.
What I see that would happen, and I agree with Jim there, it turns into informational time of gathering information, and at the same time, there's Jim over here that has an agenda that says, I want to know about this. And so then all of a sudden it turns into a debate, and mayor would have to bring it back and say, we're here only about home rule and that kind of thing. I see that happening
And
in
the other,
every meeting.
the other point I think it's nice that the city council's here, but I think they should be in the audience because they haven't seen and heard all our discussion. So to be up here, we don't know what they might say because they don't have all the facts. So I think they're here to support this information given out. And we're not here to prove anything, we're just here to give information. So I think we need to be really careful that if our spokesman, you're the
Front man.
perfect, pardon me?
Front man for the band.
Yeah, I think you're the perfect person who's going to represent it. And we're just, I don't know that we're going to be full of questions. The people are going to be full of questions that you can't answer that we have to add to it. I think it's more of a, we're here because we're committed to it.
You bet.
We're the Joe Bubbas that wrote this. We're just citizens like they are.
Yes.
I mean, I have no problem being.
Okay, so that's a great transition, Diana. So I have been reminded of how when we went through our master land use plan in 2017 and 2018, we had a town hall to present that to everybody. And so that's what we'll do. So it'll be a town hall meeting. I want you guys there as the band that put it all together. I'll run it, and I'll be up there for it. I'll take the spears. The council will be here in the audience. There'll be a notice of quorum because we want them here, if they can make it, obviously. And we'll have a presentation. So you guys... So what we have thrown out would be that second or third week in April. There's a planning and zoning meeting on April the 12th, that Wednesday, so I'd thrown out Tuesday, the 11th of April as a potential date, but we'll have to finalize that later on. So, Jim, I love the template that you sent out from Severance, Colorado. That's wonderful, and thanks for that information. So that's part of what would go on to, the city website, and social media links, all that kind of stuff as well. So, so we don't need any formal vote, just a consensus. I mean, thumbs up that you guys like the town hall idea sometime before early voting starts in April and after every registered voter has gotten a copy of the Home Rule Charter and a letter from the mayor. Is that good? Thumbs up, Armando? Yep. Liz? Okay, awesome.
Anything else you need from us, Mayor?
What else do we need?
How do we want to handle the outstanding minutes, Marissa?
Great question that I will probably talk to Cynthia about, because I have outstanding minutes for the Quarry Commission and Wildlife Commission.
Okay.
And I believe that last time I talked to her about it, she told me that they can go straight to councils for approval, since
Okay.
they're no longer a commission. But I'll double check with Cynthia about those.
Okay.
May I say something? Just back to how to get the word out. In the Grapevine newsletter, are you allowed to put anything in your message? Just not a lot of information, just, hey, get ready, that type of thing.
We can put something out in the Grapevine. We'll use our city website, and again, we'll also use social media.
Okay, good.
We've got the library. We can put notices in the library as well.
And then, Mayor, on your First Fridays, is it forbidden to talk about things like this? Or should we, as a commission, try to attend to be able to answer questions again?
So I would love to have you guys at First Fridays. That'd be wonderful. No, one of the things we talk about for when we publicize First Fridays, it's come out and meet the council and the mayor, but no formal city business is decided upon or discussed. But certainly we can talk about home rule because people want to come out and ask us questions. So, and the next First Friday is the first Friday of February, so that's the 3rd, Paul Davis Park from 5 to 7, just so you guys know. Love to see you there. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I would refrain from, say, 3 or 4 of y'all gathering in a group, talking amongst yourself talking about the charter, or even if you gather in a group of, I would say 2 at max, and you're talking to a resident and talking about the charter, because y'all are a commission, y'all have worked on this charter, I think that would probably portray a better portrait. It alleviates any accusations of advocating or open meetings violations, to be most important.
So Texas Open Meetings Act still applies, right? And what the city council is so good with at First Friday is there's never more than one city council member right by my side necessarily as we talk to different citizens that want to talk about things. Unless we're just, having fun and we're not talking city business, then there can be more. But if we're talking to a resident who's, we're talking about, no kidding, where the city's going, something that they have a concern about, then they're, Jesse behind me would be there, but Lisa would be someplace else, just to make sure that there's not that perception, if you will. So just to keep everything clean and on the up and up. So Liz, did I answer your question on that? So see you First Friday? Be great.
So
Should
how,
we organize a little bit and decide who can go to which First Friday to make sure we don't do that?
Well, you can all go. You just don't gather together as 9 people in a small circle.
Yeah.
Hey, what's,
Or you don't all sit at, one picnic table together
right.
and reminisce about
Yeah,
this
the
process.
image we want to portray is we're here just to share, but not
Yeah.
cahoots with each other.
yeah, so First Friday is just all about fellowship and getting together as a community. That's what it is. So there's drinks provided by Audi North Park. The adult beverages are provided by Megan and I. And then
Usually a food truck or two.
there's food trucks. And then Paul Duke, a resident who is a wonderful musician, comes out and plays for us, just little live music. There's Valentine's activities that we'll do with the kids and whatnot. So it's just a good time. So come on out. Don't gather as a group and reminisce about the good old days in the Charter Commission all together. So if that makes any sense. But please come out.
What are the, how many people? I mean, when I come there, am I going to see 1,000 people or a handful of people? Or give me a vision. I've never been to one.
Hundreds of people. No, so we've had as many as 60, maybe close to 70 in a 2-hour period. It's harder during football season because we all want to go cheer on the Wolves, go Wolves. But sometimes it's 25. So, but it's a good showing, and you bring your dogs and we just have a good time. So.
And then you're going to have this charter on the website, so people see a hard copy, but those can also go on the website, the Garden City website, and look at it?
Garden City.
What?
It said Garden City.
Oh, Garden Ridge,
Yeah.
sorry. Garden Ridge City website.
Right.
The city website.
Yeah.
They can go and see this charter. You'll have it there posted.
So you've now sent it to council for approval. It's going to be on the February agenda for council so that we keep up with the timeline of 72 days prior to the election of sending it to the ballot. Once council approves it and it's finalized, then we can start putting it on the website to go, hey, here it is. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great discussions.
Nancy, the question for you, would there be any benefit to you if we happen to go out and find FAQs from other cities and send those to you, or how you plan to build the FAQ list of questions?
Well, I think we'd be appreciative if y'all found any FAQs from other cities.
send them to you.
Perhaps they may have something on there that we hadn't thought about that might really support the educating. So If y'all find any, just send them to me or Marissa, to both of us. Then that way we're assured to get it. And I think, you and I and maybe we can get some assistance from some of the commission, or
To write the, ask the
questions. How do you want to do that?
So let's do this. And that leads to something that I have a question for Dan on this one. We have formed a charter commission. Once they've met their tasking, then at some point, we need to dissolve the charter commission. Is that correct?
If it did not say in whatever the council passed initially that said what their term is, then yes. But typically, that's included in the original charge from the council.
Marissa, do you remember? See where I'm going with that?
Off the top of my head, I want to say that we were very general with the creation of the commission, so I'm not sure that it has an exact ending period, but they were tasked with a specific task.
The initial charter.
Right.
Right, so it certainly wouldn't extend beyond the election, or, I mean.
So that's where I'm going with this. They still fall under ordinance 210, correct? Because they are a commission of the city of Garden Ridge?
Yeah. I would
They
say
should. So,
we create them by ordinance or resolution, though.
okay, we'll come up with what we need to do. But what Dan just said, that post-election, then we would make sure that it's no longer a commission. But until that time, it's still a commission, but we're just not having open meetings and scheduled open meetings. Is that correct, Marissa?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't have council take action to dissolve them until after the election.
Correct.
If we need them for something.
Okay, so that's really important because we just talked about Texas Open Meetings Act. So that still applies until you are no longer a commission. And just because we are not going to have scheduled open meetings here on out, you are still a 9-member commission that falls under the Texas Open Meetings Act. Until the council says you've completed your tasking and the commission is dissolved, and you can expect that in June's meeting. So something to that effect. Right, Marissa?
Right. I do think council needs to take action on it. I just think it needs to be the same as how we created
Yep.
it, which is just an action item on the agenda documented in the minutes.
Yep, so it's in June's meeting, yay or nay, whether this passes or not, we will act to dissolve the commission with some verbiage. The council will take action, but until that time, you're still a charter commission member. So the Texas Open Meetings Act still applies. Just so that at all the first Fridays you're going to attend from now until then, there's 3, right? That, including the day prior to the election, so before we all vote on this. So as far as getting information to myself, Nancy, and Marissa, the best thing to do based on that is just to send it to Nancy. If you're going to CC somebody, CC me as a part of the council. Don't CC anybody else, elected officials. If you just CC me, that you're fine, like we've already done on a lot of the emails this week. So that you keep me in the loop, go to Nancy, put Marissa on there, so that we all have that information. Marissa, are you good with that?
Yes, and
Okay.
on our website, we actually have a module that doesn't really develop the FAQs. I have to physically type them in there, but it makes it easier. The layout is very visually pleasing once you publish them on the website under the FAQs module. So if y'all do find any that you find helpful from other cities, I think that would be great to send to us, because that's probably where I'm gonna look to find a lot of them as well. So if y'all have already found some, feel free to send them over.
Send them to us.
Okay, so we've decided to have a town hall sometime the 2nd or 3rd week of April. We're all going to be there. We'll put it together. I'll be in charge of that for that town hall. Council will be here in the audience. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, send them to Nancy, Marissa, CC me. We will work the social media. We'll put this on the agenda for February 1st for the council meeting. What else?
Mayor, I just wanted to clarify something that was asked earlier. This has to be placed before the voters because it's an initial charter. The council formed this commission to come up with a charter, and the way the statute reads is that it shall be placed before the voters. So, and I forget who asked the question about whether or not the council could just not do this. The answer is no. On amendments of the charter going forward, they're not required to have a charter commission. They can do those on their own, and they're not required to take all the recommendations from a charter commission. That is the council. But that's on amendments. That's not on an initial charter. So this will go to the voters.
Thanks, Dan. That's a great clarification. So, look at you.
But
Nice work.
amendments to the charter, they're only allowed to be completed every 2 years, is that correct? Okay, so, okay.
Democracy at work. Any other questions for myself or city staff, Nancy and Marissa? Nadine?
Well, that concludes business items number 4. We're now to item 5, citizen comment period. Any citizens wanting to speak at this point? Seeing none, we move on to item number 6, which is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Great job, team.
Happy Saturday.
This is probably the fastest charter,
That's got to be a record.
right, this has got to be a record. Would you say that 4 meetings is a record?